From the army of King Saul, a young boy named David steps forward to face a giant man. But before the clash, the narrative takes us back 1 year. Here, David is not yet a hero, but a shepherd boy who misses his late mother. He is despised in his own village for being a bastard, but he believes he has a greater purpose in life than just taking care of his sheep. His first act of courage comes when he hunts down and kills a lion preying on his flock. Meanwhile, King Saul wages war against the Amalekites on God's command. Anointed as Israel's first king by the prophet Samuel, more than 2.5 decades earlier, Saul has built a strong and admired kingdom through several victories. Yet success has made him arrogant, drifting from God's will. After defeating the Amalekites, Saul doesn't kill their king Agag and seizes the spoils of war, directly disobeying Samuel's instructions. His son Jonathan, who had gone to the border village to inspect the mysterious attack, returns with an orphan kid. And when he gets to know that his father is disobeying Samuel's orders, he voices his disapproval. But Saul, seeking glory and political favor, ignores him and distributes the spoils of war among the leaders of different tribes. During the victory feast, Samuel arrives with a devastating message that God has rejected Saul as king for not obeying his orders. Despite Saul's desperate pleas, Samuel doesn't stop. He executes Agag himself and departs to search for a new king. By the episode's end, the second episode opens with a flashback to David's mother, who was a gentle woman gifted with visions from God. Her village despised her, believing she had committed adultery and that David was a bastard. Despite the scorn, she fiercely protected her son. But during a lion attack, she was fatally wounded while shielding him. With her final breath, she told David that he is meant for something greater. In the present, David returns home after killing the lion. Now we know that the victory is not just an act of bravery. It's deeply personal. He finally slayed the beast that once took his mother. Meanwhile, in Gibeah, the capital of Israel, King Saul wakes from a long sleep. He shares the truth with his wife and the loyal commander, Abner, that the prophet Samuel intends to anoint another king in his place. Saul orders Abner to track Samuel and bring the chosen successor to him. But his wife quietly gives a darker command, which was to kill the one Samuel chooses and his entire family. Rumors swirl through the palace about Saul's illness. To calm the unrest, Saul meets with his sons and daughters, insisting he is healed. But later that night, any illusion of recovery shatters when Saul draws a sword and tries to murder his wife in sleep. His mind is still unraveling. In Philistia, King Achish of Gath summons a council of the Philistine rulers and urges a united invasion of Israel. The others refuse. Old rivalries divide them, and they dismiss Achish's proposal, suspecting that it's his personal vengeance that fuels the idea. Saul had killed his father years earlier in battle. Undeterred, Achish rides with a small force to Balthazar, the village that was recently attacked. Back in Bethlehem, Adriel, leader of the tribe of Judah, leads celebrations after their contribution to Israel's victory over the Amalekites. David lifts the mood with his music. His brothers have returned from battle, and King Saul's daughters, Merab and Michal, arrive to thank the tribe. Michal was visibly impressed by David, but one of his cousins quickly interrupts them out of jealousy. At dawn, David, who has long been eager to join the army, begs his kinder brother Eliab to help him enlist. Eliab insists that he isn't ready for war. But when David doesn't relent, Eliab takes him to the ruins of Balthazar to show him how brutal their enemies are. There, they unexpectedly encounter Achish and his men. Eliab gets gravely wounded in the fight, but they somehow manage to escape. The third episode opens with King Saul trapped in a violent dream. He envisions the death of his son, the downfall of his bloodline, and Samuel as the cause of it all. In the vision, he throws a spear at Samuel, but when he jolts awake, he discovers he's killed a servant boy instead. To cover up the incident, the queen summons the boy's mother and lies that the servant died protecting the king from an assassin who infiltrated the palace. Determined to break the curse on her husband, she secretly travels with Abner to Besai, a priestess who worships abandoned gods. Saul himself once banned these religions in Israel, but the queen is now willing to violate sacred law to save her husband and their dynasty. When Jonathan learns of his mother's plan, he confronts her, horrified that she would turn to outlawed magic. But she refuses to back down, consumed by a desperate need to preserve her family's power at any cost. Meanwhile, the prophet Samuel sets out to find the one God has chosen to succeed Saul. He travels with an apprentice, but when he learns the young man's wife is pregnant, Samuel orders him to stay behind and care for her. Samuel continues alone to Bethlehem, where the Lord has directed him to seek Israel's future king. However, Doeg, who has been assigned by Abner to follow Samuel, captures the apprentice and brutally tortures him for information. In the wilderness, Achish continues to chase rumors that the recently devastated village was attacked by giants. He searches the forested valleys and eventually discovers their home. There, he persuades the mother of giants to ally with him against Israel. Samuel finally arrives in Bethlehem and visits the household of Jesse. He announces he has come to make a sacrifice with the family and instructs Jesse to gather his sons. One by one, Samuel inspects them, but none of the older brothers is the one God has chosen. David is brought in last, and Samuel recognizes him immediately as the future ruler. Samuel anoints David as the next king of Israel, which shocks the entire family. Even after Besai's help, Saul isn't fully healed. While he sits on the throne, still mentally unstable, his younger son Eshbaal approaches him with plans to build new things in the capital for people's entertainment, which Saul refuses. Eshbaal has always been seen as a disappointment compared to his older brother, who is supposed to inherit the throne. Soon after, Yahir, the leader of the tribe of Dan, storms into the throne room. He's furious because Eshbaal has slept with his daughter. He demands that either Eshbaal marries her or he is stoned, as the law of Moses says. Saul, already unwell, walks out abruptly. The queen steps in and reminds Yahir that according to the law, both the boy and the girl should be stoned. She asks him to return the next day so they can talk. When he does, she makes a harsh decision. She banishes Eshbaal to the city of Endor, which is a place of criminals and outcasts. At David's house, the family agrees to keep Samuel's visit a secret. But Joab then arrives with news that David has been summoned by the king. Eliab goes with him to the palace. They are relieved when they learn David was called for his music. Saul's healers are trying different musicians, and Michal recommended him. David enters the throne room while Saul's family is still arguing about Eshbaal. Saul does not agree with his banishment. David begins to play, and his music calms everyone. Michal becomes even more drawn to him, and later she meets him privately and starts teaching him how to read. Abner warns Joab and Eliab to be careful of their own tribe, Judah, because Samuel had visited them. They might be plotting against the throne. Prince Jonathan takes Joab and Eliab to a nearby border village that was mysteriously attacked. When Abner confronts Adriel about Samuel's visit in Bethlehem, Adriel refuses to share anything unless his demands are met. He agrees to stay loyal to the throne only if one of the king's daughters marries one of his sons. The entire episode centers around this alliance. Michal is chosen to marry one of Adriel's sons, but she is visibly unhappy. Both Joab and David, who have feelings for Michal, are upset but powerless to stop it. Meanwhile, Merab is seen walking through the hall with Jordan, another of Adriel's sons. They seem genuinely happy together. Saul notices their bond and unexpectedly announces Merab's marriage to Jordan instead of Michal's. For a moment, everything seems calm and positive. But then the king has another vision of Agag, who warns him that the tribe of Judah will betray him. Saul loses his mind and lashes out at Adriel in front of everyone and cancels the marriage. Everyone's shocked by it, but no one could do anything. The 6th episode starts with the giants arriving at Achish's palace. They talk about forming an alliance. The giant woman makes a big demand. Her son, Goliath, should become king after they win the battle. Achish refuses, and they leave and return to their home. Doeg then meets Achish and offers to help make the alliance happen. He goes to the giants' home, kills their mother, and tells them he represents the house of Saul. With her dying breath, the mother tells Goliath to avenge her. Because of this, the giants agree to join Achish against Israel. When other kings hear this, they also join the alliance. In the palace, Michal is conflicted about David. She loves him, but she knows they can never be together. David asks her to run away with him to a far-off place, but she refuses. David leaves alone and goes back to his home. Without David's music, the king's condition becomes worse. To calm him, the queen and Besai perform black magic, but Jonathan stops them. Jonathan also wants his father to be healed, so he rides alone to find Samuel. He finds him, but Samuel says he cannot help the king. He also tells Jonathan that he has anointed someone else. On his way back, Jonathan sees the massive Philistine army. He rushes home and reports it. The palace sends word to all the tribes and prepares for war. Both the Philistine army and the Israelite army gather on the battlefield. Israel is outnumbered 3-1. The spirits of Saul's men fall even lower when they see the giant Goliath, who calls for a champion to fight him. Saul also starts seeing visions and falls back into darkness. No one dares to answer Goliath's challenge. Days pass, and many soldiers run away from the camp. Jonathan talks about becoming the champion, but Abner refuses. Instead, Abner suggests another plan: to lead a group of assassins and kill Goliath while he sleeps. When news reaches the palace that the Philistines are dominating, the queen loses all hope. But Merab and Michal decide to ride to the battlefield to support their father. At the house of Jesse, David is upset because all his brothers have gone to war, but his father will not let him go. Samuel visits their home and convinces Jesse to allow David to join the battle. Jesse agrees, and David finally leaves for the battlefield. The final episode of the first season begins with Prince Jonathan falling into a trap when one of the assassins betrays him. He is captured, but Achish does not kill him. Instead, he sends Jonathan back to his father with a message to surrender. At the same time, Merab and Michal arrive at the camp. Michal wakes her father from his dark visions. David also arrives, and while speaking to the king, he volunteers to fight Goliath. Seeing his confidence, King Saul allows him to go. Many soldiers are angry about this choice. When Jonathan returns, he is shocked too. But after speaking with David, he realizes David is the one Samuel anointed. David walks forward to face Goliath with only one stone. From a distance, Samuel offers a sacrifice for Israel's victory. David is injured by one of Goliath's spears, but he kills Goliath with a single stone and cuts off his head. This fills the Israelite army with courage and rage, while the Philistine army loses morale and many soldiers run away. Back at the palace, Eshbaal arrives with his men. He tells his mother that the rest of their family will never return because they are outnumbered. He asks her to make him king and flee, so he can represent whatever is left of Israel after the battle. She agrees and declares him the king.